We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you a special presentation of
Two Nerds, a podcast. Your home for everything movies, music, video games, and everything in between. With your hosts, Bunny the Bruiser, and Dynamite Jared Latching.
How's it going, everyone? We are Two Nerds. This is a podcast. I'm and this is Giggles over here.
And I'm Dynamite Jared.
We got another very content-heavy episode this week.
This is
tons to talk about.
Absolutely content-packed episode. Let's get our ad break out of the way right away. I started the Twitch channel.
Started a Twitch channel.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so there's our sponsorship. At Dynamite Jared on Twitch, I have one follower, and on Twitch, I guess you can't even look at who the hell's following you.
So you don't know who it is.
I have no idea who's following me.
Well, it's not me.
I know. You didn't even know until just now, did you?
I saw some tweets.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, Jared hates streaming. What the hell's he doing? So
Okay.
Let's just address this now.
Yeah, I'll address this now.
What's going on?
I thought that I addressed this on the podcast before. Is that I don't hate streaming as much as I hate watching streaming.
Okay.
I don't understand it, and I even said in my streams that are they're like on the Twitch website now for like 60 days. They're archived for 60 days. I can't figure out how to actually save them.
Okay.
But I hate watching streamers, and I don't understand like the concept of watching.
You don't know the appeal of
I
watching.
don't understand the appeal of watching someone else stream.
But making
that being said, and I'm sure I said this on the show before, if I had the opportunity to stream and I had an audience that wanted to watch me play video games, sure. I'm all for it. Yeah, you can watch me play video games and you can watch me get frustrated or talk while we're playing video games. So that's totally cool. I understand why people do it and why they stream, because if you have an audience, why the hell not? Yeah. I just don't understand the you said the word already. I don't understand the appeal of it.
Yeah.
So like I don't understand why they have an audience, but they do, and so I understand why they do it, and maybe one day I could get an audience, and then I would just keep doing it, even though I would never watch anyone stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've dabbled in the Let's Plays before.
We have.
With Resident Evil, but we did not finish.
We didn't finish. What? How many views does Hulk Hogan have at this point?
I don't know.
I actually get commentary about that. Every now and then, like people that I know, like, oh, I watched that Let's Play you did with Hulk Hogan. That was really funny. Really, like people liked that one.
Well, we got to tell Hogan he's got to come on the podcast.
Yeah, got to get Hogan on the podcast, brother.
So let's see.
You can't just see
Hogan's
the views.
got 75.
That's good.
I know one of them has like a shit ton for no reason.
Probably our first one.
No, not even our first one. Just like a random one in the middle. This one has 112, 50. One of them is like absurd.
116 is the record holder right now.
As of now.
Let's see here.
40. All right, here's where it started to go downhill. 36.
These are later?
Yeah. These are like the last ones. So let's see episode 1 and 2, because those are ones. So
60 is modest start.
60 and
24 really.
And then that's all of them. Oh, no, we didn't do these ones in the middle. 69, A, and 112.
The 112.
Yeah.
And the video doesn't work anymore?
No, it's just your internet went out. It just says tap to refresh. There
Oh,
it is.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we peaked in the middle.
We did. We peaked in the middle.
I would do those more for 100 views, honestly.
Yeah, I still have two of them that didn't go up. I think like two or
so
three.
if you guys are interested and seeing those. No star reviews. If you watched our Let's Plays, if you're one of those viewers and you wanted to see the other 2 parts, then tell us in the comments below. And you know what? Speaking of no star reviews, we can start a discussion right now. We shafted no star reviews last week. We shafted him. Okay, we begged and pleaded with our audience to give us something to talk about. And No Star Reviews did that.
He did leave a comment, but
he told us.
But you insisted on having Midnight Miles on the show.
I know, but I also told Midnight Miles to think of his favorite '90s cartoons beforehand,
and
but we just totally forgot.
And we talked for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So
let's call Midnight Miles right now.
Are we?
No. He's probably drunk already. Oh.
This is like 1 in the afternoon, brother.
It's 2:25.
It's 2:25. As I check my clock.
Yeah, we have Midnight Miles on there. I told him to prep a discussion to be prepped for a discussion on 90s cartoons, but we totally forgot about it, lost in the moment. I hope the No Star Reviews is giving us another chance because we will discuss that right now.
Okay. I've had no time to prepare because I didn't know you were planning on saying
I
this.
was sort of preparing last week, but I threw it all out the window once I forgot about it. And I didn't remember until earlier this week, and then I forgot again, and then I just remembered right now.
So how are we defining a 90s cartoon? Did it have to premiere in the 90s, or just the peak popularity was like in the 90s? Because, like, for example, like off the top of my head, like SpongeBob started in 99, but I see that more as a 2000s cartoon because it came out like the last year of the 90s and it wasn't really super popular until...
I think kind of like...
You know what I mean?
think the rule that you would apply to bands would apply to something like that. Or if it comes out in the late 90s. All right, so say like the Cars. What would you kind of consider them? What decade?
Like 70s?
Well, they only have one album in the 70s, and it's 79.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's their most famous album. It's their eponymous, or whatever the word is, debut.
Yeah.
But 79, The Cars, self-titled. I think my numbers are right on that. But, you know, that kind of...
And, like, decades aren't really defined, because it's not like... Because when people say the 60s, they don't really mean, like, 1960, that's when everything started. It's, like, really the mid-60s, early 70s are what people think of, like, the 60s, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the years aren't really that important, you know?
But here's the thing,
like
is that the 90s was full of cartoons throughout the decade.
Yes.
So, like, even in the early decade... But, okay, here's an example. Married with Children... What decade would you consider that show?
I would consider it 90s, but it started in the 80s.
It started 89, I believe.
Yeah.
Like,
well, so did Seinfeld. Seinfeld started in
89. That's definitely a 90s show. Twin Peaks started in 89. Definitely a 90s show.
Right.
So, like, that's kind of the rule that we'll go. So, SpongeBob, not a 90s cartoon.
Not a 90s. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, just because it came out in the 90s doesn't mean it's a 90s. Because I think that is, like, the first, like, 2000s era cartoon, like, that had prominence, you know?
Yeah. Even though... And then the same applies to, like, cartoons that ran into the 2000s, but kind of had their, like, heyday in the 90s.
Yeah, the heyday had to be in the
90s cartoon.
Yeah.
Or they had a significant amount of their run in the 90s.
Right. So I wouldn't call this my pick by any stretch of the imagination, but where does The Simpsons fall on this category?
Well, they're 90s.
It started in the 80s.
Even though they've spanned
like
multiple decades.
The peak was the 90s.
Yeah.
So it's a 90s cartoon, technically, right?
All right. So where would The Simpsons fall? Man, you gotta...
In its heyday, it was good. I will say that.
You gotta put The Simpsons up high.
Yeah.
It's the longest running show on television.
Longest running, like, primetime, like, episodic show. Like, obviously, like, soap operas and shit, like, started in the 60s, but it's not, like, a primetime, like, show.
It's the longest running, but it doesn't have the most episodes. That would be Monday Night Raw, right?
Yeah, because, I mean, The Simpsons has, like, a season finale, and, like, they take a break.
Yeah.
They make the new episodes. Raw is, like, the longest, like, continuous, like, primetime, like, show.
Okay, because I remember them celebrating something about that a few years back.
Yeah.
Being the longest running, whatever. The Simpsons has to rank pretty high.
Yeah.
Now, I was never, like, huge on The Simpsons, which is blasphemous.
Right.
But I just never really watched. I mean, when I was a little kid,
I wasn't really allowed to
was
watch
on.
it, really.
that's funny because it's like, it is sort of like an adult cartoon.
But there's nothing. It's not like a South Park. Or
It's
anything.
not, like, very, like...
It's
I
just
don't know,
more.
There's
It's
not,
just,
like, a ton of cussing and stuff, is there?
No, it's just more geared towards like the teenage or adult audience. Like
Yeah.
kids can watch it, but like it's not. I don't know. It's not like super appropriate. Like Bart's like eat my shorts and like he's kind of like a wise ass and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's anything bad in it. It's just, you know.
I think The Simpsons would be a great pick. One of my questions for No Star beforehand, and I mean he can't answer this live, and we should have got him on the show to talk about this with us. But then why would he listen to the episode?
Yeah.
It's like what are we qualifying here? Does anime count?
Anime can count.
Can we talk about anime? Because then there's Dragon Ball Z, obviously.
Yeah.
And I know he didn't watch that.
Right.
But, you know, that's got to be high up on the list.
Yeah.
If you
for
grew up in
for American audiences, because I mean the other one was 80s, like in Japan, really.
Dragon Ball was. But Dragon Ball Z...
I always get the years screwed
But
up.
Dragon Ball Z started in like 88 or 89 and
Okay.
ended in 95.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then GT ended in 96 or 97.
Yeah, I always get the years messed up when the Japanese version came. For some reason, I always think that Dragon Ball Z started in like 86. But then it's probably Dragon Ball that started in like 85 or something.
So, anyways, Dragon Ball Z, and I mean, even still, like, over here, though, and I know it was a big deal in Japan.
Yeah.
But over here, it became a phenomenon in, like, the late 90s. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that here, when Dragon Ball Z really reached its peak, though, was in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I mean, the cartoon was made in the 90s, though, and so that's a tough situation.
Yeah.
That's like with our discussion, like it was made in the 90s, but its peak popularity was probably in the early 2000s. In the West, the West, in the East, I think maybe because they were still making video games and stuff in Japan.
Yeah.
For Dragon Ball Z, I mean they never stopped, and they probably never will.
Yeah.
So, there's Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. Be a quality pick. See, my issue is like when in the 90s I was a little too young, so a lot of the shows, I mean, I was like 7 when the 2000s started, so a lot of like the shows that I really remember and like watched as a kid were like 2000s shows, but I still watched like the older ones, but I'm still like, it's hard to think of right now. Like I know like Rugrats, Rocko's Modern Life, like all the Nickelodeon like Cartoon Network shows, I think, from the 90s, but I don't know the years like some of these came out.
The 90s, man.
Because Rugrats started in 91.
Would you say that the 90s is the greatest decade for cartoons? Or would you say that's maybe like the golden age with like the Bugs Bunnies and stuff like that?
I would say for children, the 90s. And
I want to say for overall, because go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like the Looney Tunes, like a lot of people like don't know this, but those were for adults. Those would play in movie theaters before adult movies. They were like kind of how like film serials like Flash Gordon and like shit like the stuff that inspired Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Like those were serials that would play before you go see Casablanca or before you go see Dracula or like whatever it is. So Looney Tunes were made for adults. That's why they're smoking cigarettes and there's all the extreme like violence, you know. So they weren't really geared towards kids, but of course in the 80s and the 90s they started releasing them on Cartoon Network and stuff like that. So that's when so I guess I would just say that the peak for cartoons in general was the 90s, because that's when a lot of these older stuff were being seen by people, you know.
I would say that the 90s is probably the greatest decade for cartoons, period, not just for children, But man, they really like brought like actual adult cartoons to like the popular like culture. Now adult cartoons
They're all over.
are all over the place. Like every like major network has an adult cartoon that they show at some point.
If not more than one.
Yeah, and
hell, Fox has like 12 just by Seth MacFarlane, you know. Like,
but like in the 90s, that like in the early 90s, that wasn't really a thing. And like kind of like growing up, and then you would see a cartoon like Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
And just like, whoa. Like,
yeah.
It was crazy, man. It was nuts. You're so used to seeing like kid-friendly cartoons, but in the 90s, really pushed forward this idea that like cartoons don't just have to be for kids.
Yeah.
Like, you could watch Beavis and Butthead, or like you said, kind of like The Simpsons, or you know, later on, like they did the Spawn animated series on HBO. And then, like, as the 90s were closing, South Park started.
Right.
And then the floodgates just kind of opened.
And even
Toonami started the Midnight Run. And maybe this was in early 2000s or whatever, but they started showing, like, uncut, like, anime and stuff on late night Cartoon Network. And I could be wrong, but that's either 99 or like
it's
2000s.
Definitely in that like fuzzy period. I'm not sure, but I was gonna say like piggybacking off of that, like even back then, because back then, like I would say like in the 80s and stuff, like kids shows were meant for kids. Like obviously you have like your Transformers and stuff like that that are more universal, but a lot of times you're running into Care Bears and like the Gummy Bear shows.
I wouldn't
like,
even say that Transformers is universal. I think that Transformers is definitely a kids show that people just kind of took into adulthood with them. This is like the nostalgia there for certain adults. They grew up on Transformers, so they don't want to let it go. But if you go back and really watch old Transformers, you'd probably find that it's not that compelling of a television show.
What I'm getting at is like this is when people started to realize, oh, parents are forced to watch this shit too. So they kind of start sneaking in more. Like Ren and Stimpy's like a good example. Like a lot of this stuff's going to go over the kids' heads, but they can still watch it, and the parents are like dying because of like how like raunchy and like ridiculous it actually is, you know?
Yeah. Ren and Stimpy is ridiculous.
Yeah.
We get into the mid-90s, and Nickelodeon releases like kind of like a slew of new cartoons that man are still kind of memed today. And stuff like Real Monsters,
right,
Cat Dog, and then the most popular in my opinion, Hey Arnold.
Yes. Hey Arnold is like one of those shows where I've watched it recently, and it's still as compelling as it was back then.
Yeah, really good. Man, but you're looking up kind of a list here.
Yeah, I'm just getting a list because I mean we can talk about this forever. But
well, I was going to talk about the Cartoon Network ones here in a second, but you reminded me.
But we can stay on Nickelodeon,
kind of like the early '90s Nickelodeon shows,
like
which you could still watch today, and they would still be good. Is Doug?
Yeah,
Doug. I don't know so much about Rugrats.
Rugrats, that's definitely one more towards the younger generation, like 5 through like 7. But I mean, it still has some stuff that's good. With the Rugrats like movies, they tried to make those more like for everyone instead of just like little kids. But that show, like Rugrats, touched on like some heavy stuff. Like there's an episode where like Chucky, who only has a father, like finds like an old like picture of his mom and like asks his dad like, who is this? Like they got into like some deep stuff in that as well. Like it wasn't all just like stupid like kid stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So I guess like episode per episode basis, like some are better than others, but
I wouldn't go back and watch Rugrats.
Oh, I wouldn't watch the whole series, but like if it's on, I mean, whatever.
I would definitely watch Doug because that show. I remember growing up, my older brother liked Doug still.
Yeah,
and he was probably going into like his early teens and stuff.
Yeah,
still watched Doug.
Yeah,
it was a cool show because I mean, like
Quail Man was badass.
You know, I mean, it was kind of like that. It was like a high school kind of target like audience that like all the characters were in high school, and it was kind of like some high school themes there where you have like Roger the bully and like Doug and Skeeter were friends and they were into music and he would daydream about Quail Man and stuff. He had a crush on Patty Mayonnaise. So I mean like that was really cool. It was kind of like a cartoon take on like maybe like an 80s teen movie. There's a great one right there is that we might have not mentioned, but one of the all-time great, probably the greatest superhero animated series of all time was Batman the Animated Series in the 1990s.
And it's not one that really pops in your head when you think of like 90s cartoons because you think of the Rugrats and Doug and like shit like that. But like Batman is one of those where you could watch the whole thing now and it's still just as relevant and just as good as it was back then.
It's pretty dark.
I would say
it's not dark enough that we're gonna have a bunch of blood and cussing and sex and everything, but it's got like that dark mood to it, where it's like the whole like aesthetic of the show is this gothic atmosphere, and like the themes of the show are enough to be kid friendly, but when you build like kind of that adult consciousness, it becomes like this. Okay, Joker's killing everybody and like leaving the smile on their face with the mask or with the gas and everything, and like there's adult themes in it that like you can pick up on as an adult, and the show will still hold up just as good from childhood to adulthood.
Literally the best episode of that show, I don't know if you remember this one, but literally it's like and I might be getting some of the information wrong, I haven't seen it in many years, but I remember all the villains like just sitting around a table playing poker. And they're just like telling a story. Oh, this is how I almost got him.
Oh yeah, I remember that episode. That's awesome. An episode that sticks in my mind that I always remember is the Man-Bat episode.
Oh, okay.
And I believe Man-Bat was an original villain for that show. They made that show, or made him for the show.
That's possible.
As well as Harley Quinn. So you have two, especially Harley Quinn. I know for a fact that Harley Quinn was made for the show.
Yeah.
She wasn't a Batman character before that. But you have two major Batman villains that came out of the show and are like respected by the Batman fan base now that are in the comics, in the main continuity because of this show. That's how good the show was.
Yeah.
I see Gargoyles on here, which was another show that was kind of like Batman. Yeah. That was like, as you get older, you could probably still watch and appreciate it.
And that was on Disney, so that was like touching, like that was like the darkest thing that they did at the time, you know what I mean? Like all the rest was like Goof Troop and DuckTales and all that.
I remember loving Gargoyles when I was a kid, and they released the movie in kind of like a VHS big box.
Did they?
A little bit, yeah. It's funny to think of because you don't really think of it, but Gargoyles had a movie.
They
back
did.
in the day.
Yeah.
I might have been straight to video. I don't remember.
Like, yeah.
And then as we get into the later 90s, what year did that come out?
King of the Hill?
Yeah.
97.
So would you consider that? Or do you think its peak popularity was in the
thing
2000s?
was, I don't know when its peak popularity was because I never really watched it.
So I feel like it probably had a lot of buzz when it first started, being the next big thing for Mike Judge, who was the creator of Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
And Beavis and Butthead was huge in the 90s.
Yeah.
So much so that a couple years ago, do you remember this? They did a new season of Beavis and Butthead.
They did. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I think that it was actually received well.
Yeah.
But they canceled it for low ratings, I think. That they didn't account for just downloads and stuff.
Well, just because it's well liked by the audience, it doesn't mean that audience is big enough.
Yeah. We have, as we went into the 90s, what I think of when I think of 90s cartoons is the line of cartoons that a lot of people might not remember this, but I was old enough to remember that all these cartoons were released as kind of like a set of cartoons.
Oh, I remember that. There was like...
kind of like the new wave of cartoons came from Cartoon Network, and they were called cartoons.
Yeah. And they had Cartoon Fridays, brother.
Yeah, and you had your
But I don't even know if you remember this, because this was like so obscure. I forget what the name of the show was called.
What a Cartoon.
It might be, but it was basically like it was a half-hour show or an hour show, and it was just like little like 7-minute pilots. And then
that was What a Cartoon.
That's what it was called.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the cartoons got their start.
Yeah.
Is that they had their little pilot on What a Cartoon. Johnny Bravo started there. Courage the Cowardly Dog started there. Powerpuff Girls started there.
Really?
I think even Dexter's Laboratory started there. Cow and Chickens. I think they all started there except for maybe Ed, Edd and Eddy.
Yeah.
But
because I remember like a lot of those shows, like the animators from those shows would like make the pilot, like the pilot wouldn't be that good, and then they would like rework it into something else. Because I know that like there was a couple shows on there that were like the Mo Willems and people like that who eventually went on to do Sheep in the Big City and Codename Kids Next Door, like in the 2000s. They started making shorts on that, and probably like the most infamous one is a short about a guy and his pet dog, and then that evolved into Peter Griffin and Brian. A couple years later. If you watch that episode, it's literally Peter Griffin. And they look different, but it's the same voices, same characters. But there's no family. It's just like the two of them. But it's literally a Family Guy episode that was on Cartoon Network, basically. It's more kid-friendly, but then they like developed it into what Family Guy would eventually become.
I don't remember that because I might have remembered that if I got into Family Guy sooner.
See, I didn't remember that, but I found that on the internet like years later.
Okay.
That I don't remember watching it as a kid. I'm sure I did. But
If I watch it now, well, Jesus, if I watched it then I would probably, if I had any lasting memory of it, I would have like kind of been like, God, those guys seem familiar when I was watching Family Guy. But maybe if I watch it, maybe I'll remember, because I used to watch Cartoon Network was on like a pretty constant loop in my house.
Yeah.
So I'd like to say that I saw most of the What a Cartoon episodes, and then like the cartoons that they spawned into. I'm pretty sure, aside from Courage and Ed, Edd and Eddy, I saw just about every episode of them.
Yeah.
Out of those, man, it's tough to pick because, damn, Johnny Bravo was so good. Dexter's Laboratory was so good.
Right.
Powerpuff Girls was so good.
Everything that it was like Bob
The only show that I didn't like was Cow and Chicken.
I liked Cow and Chicken. Like I wasn't like raving about it, but like I enjoyed it. You know.
It was too like.
It was a little out there. I liked the devil guy in it.
I didn't like it then. Maybe I would like it now, but I didn't like it when I was a kid.
I was just waiting for the parent face reveal when I was a kid for like so long, and like people at school would like debate what the parents look like, and then like in the last episode it finally pans back and they're just pairs of legs.
Oh, that's a great reveal. I see the let's talk about some of the Saturday morning cartoons here. How about Recess? Do you remember Recess?
I saw Recess the movie like in theaters opening day.
Oh man, you know what? Actually, I saw the Powerpuff Girls movie in theaters. And
I did as well. I didn't see it opening day.
I'm not sure if it was opening day, but I remember we were going to see it, and my mom like fell asleep at the wheel as we were driving, and like swerved back onto the road, I guess, or whatever, and like spilled hot coffee on my sister.
What?
When we were going to see the movie, and so like we had to like not go see the movie like at the moment because I think we had to take my sister back home and like kind of tend to our burns.
Right.
So that was crazy. But yeah, we went to go see the Powerpuff Girls movie in theaters. But there was Recess was like one of my favorites for a while. Yeah. When I was growing up. You know what? Do you remember the show that it was on Saturday morning? And they had like
on like WB.
Yeah, but they had like kind of like a block. It was like
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember.
And they would be in like this kind of like 3D CGI like indoor theme park kind of deal.
I don't remember that.
Okay, so they would do that, but when I was a kid, I thought that the indoor theme park was a real place.
Oh, really?
And so I'd always beg my mom to take me there because they had like the indoor trampolines and ball pits and everything like that. Yeah. And I always be like, oh, take me there, you know what I mean? And my mom would be like, I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
So,
I always wanted to go to like Nickelodeon Studios. You remember how they do like
yeah,
like all that stuff? And yeah,
Nickelodeon. I liked Nickelodeon more for their live action stuff back in the 90s than their cartoon stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, like we've already praised Doug and Hey Arnold and shows like that, but
there's Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Are You Afraid of the Dark, man? Kenan and Kel,
Pete and Pete, all that.
All that was amazing.
Yeah.
And then you had your game shows.
Oh yeah, Guts,
Slime Time. Was it Slime Time?
Well, Slime Time Live is they played like in between the shows, but the show you're probably thinking of is Double Dare.
Double Dare, okay.
Yeah.
And it had the cast of all that on it as like the contestants.
Sometimes.
And it was
that was you're thinking of the one with the giant face where they would like slime the people.
Was it a giant
Double
face?
Dare was like questions and they do challenges. I think you're thinking
This one was like questions and challenges, and if you would get the question wrong, they would dump slime on you.
Yeah, that was a different show.
And like
Double Dare was basically Family Feud with challenges. Like there were two families on the side, and they would compete in challenges. You're thinking of one where they would ask questions, and there was a big face, and they were trying to guess. They would have like a little girl on the show or a little boy who like had a special talent, and everyone was trying to guess what they would do. And then at the end of the show, the kid would do it. And it's like, oh, he can win a prize grabber every time, or like something stupid like that.
I just remember the dude from all that was like a redhead with freckles.
Yeah.
And he had like that medium length hair, and he's probably addicted to drugs now.
Yeah.
And
Definitely addicted to drugs now. You're thinking of Figure It Out.
Figure It Out, yeah. Is that who I think it is?
It just looks like my cousin AJ. I don't know.
Okay, I thought from a distance it looked like Slater. As the host of the show. Who's that? Mario Lopez?
No, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, but Slater.
Is it Mario Lopez? I don't know.
I'm gonna feel stupid when I look this up, but I'm gonna look up Mario Lopez real quick. I'm almost positive. Yeah, it's Slater. Okay, Jesus. It looks kind of like Mario Lopez's dad,
A little bit.
honestly.
But Legend of the Hidden Temple was my shit. Like, I think that was the best one out of all of them.
But okay, so I remember this redhead dude.
Yeah, and Figure It Out. Yeah.
And he would always get slimed, and his whole gimmick was that when he would get slimed, he'd
He'd
whip his hair back and throw the slime all over the audience. And
Yeah.
he's probably addicted to meth now.
Yeah.
Because child stars never make it, except for Kenan Thompson.
Yeah. Not so much Kel.
I think that Kel is doing fine, because I just remember reading interviews that like he didn't want to be associated with Kenan anymore.
Oh, really?
That was like his whole thing, is that he still does like comedy and stuff,
Uh-huh.
but
Kind of like the Drake and Josh thing. How they,
but he
they
just
wanted
doesn't want to be like associated with that, even though it's like his claim to fame.
Yeah.
And I think that he was on a couple episodes of Saturday Night Live, and they kind of like collabed a little bit
Yeah.
on there again. But
Yeah.
I don't think they ever went full Kenan and Kel again.
Yeah.
Because that would be a copyright issue.
Right. I don't know.
But
What
that
other-
stuff, that kind of stuff was what I liked Nickelodeon more for when I
Yeah.
was a kid.
I agree. I agree.
One thing that a lot of people don't remember about Nickelodeon either, when they kind of look back with fond memories of all this stuff, is that like in the summertime, or like, yeah, in the summertime on the weekdays, you couldn't really watch Nickelodeon.
Well, they had like
Because
the
they had
summer days of play. And
They'd have Nick Jr. on.
well, yeah,
like,
that as
throughout
well.
The whole. Okay, so if you wanted to take a sick, this is when I really remember it. Is when you wanted to play hooky from school and pretend like you were sick or whatever.
You had to watch
and you
Cartoon
fooled
Network.
and you fooled your parents. You couldn't watch Nickelodeon. They would never show their good shows. It was like,
Like Dora and shit like that. Or is that past your time? That's probably past
that was more 2000s. I can't even remember the shows they would show on Nick Jr. because I would just turn it off. I just remember the face.
Yeah, his name was Face.
His name was Face, and he would change colors.
Before that, there was Stickly. That was literally just like a popsicle stick that they put googly eyes on. So,
Well, Face was an upgrade. Okay, they have Blue's Clues.
yeah.
And you know what? I did watch Blue's Clues.
That's a good show. That is a good show.
I can't wait.
John
I
Cena's
can't wait for
version.
Steve versus John Cena at WrestleMania. That's coming this year for sure.
Yeah.
I can't believe John and Steve didn't go through with it this past year. John didn't even have a match until 2 seconds before.
Yeah. But is Blue going to be looking for Steve? Because, I mean, they can't see him if he's John Cena, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a moment of silence.
That was really bad. So, Blue's Clues was a 90s cartoon.
Part cartoon, part Steve.
I'd still consider it cartoon.
Yeah. But Cartoon Network would show their good stuff all day. Because they didn't have, like, Cartoon
Well, I
Network.
think they went to, like, Looney Tunes in midday, but still, that was way, way better than,
Whatever
than
Nickelodeon
Nick
was
Jr.
playing. And obviously, like, if we can't even remember what they were, they didn't leave an impression. Because the ones I remember were the 2000s ones.
Yeah. Do they still do Nick Jr. today?
I would imagine. I don't know if it's called that anymore. But
And then,
they actually,
then if you waited too late, they would start playing Nick at Night. And, okay, Nick at Night rules now.
Yeah.
Nick at Night's like one of the best things ever now because they play Fresh Prince, The Nanny, I think probably Friends. They play Friends.
Yeah.
Saved by the Bell, maybe? They play all kinds of 90s shows now.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed in the 2000s. I liked it because they'd play. I guess you can't. It's not so good anymore, but that's when the Cosby Show was on like all night. But back then, I mean, we'd watch it. But
Okay, so in the 2000s, then they played the 80s shows.
It was like
on Nick at Night.
It started with
Did they do Cheers?
the lineup was it would start at like 10 o'clock with 2 episodes of the Cosby Show. Then at 11, 2 episodes of Three's Company. Then Cheers from midnight to 1. Then something else, and then they would repeat it. And then, so by the time it got to like 6 in the morning, that's when like Nick Jr. started.
Okay, so there you go. They were playing 80s stuff in like the 2000s, and now they're doing kind of like a 90s thing, but they're throwing like a little bit of early 2000s in there too, because I think they show George Lopez. But but they do like 90s shows now.
Yeah.
So it's like they're showing shows from 20 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Because in the 90s, they were showing like 60s and 70s stuff on Nick at Night. They would show like what? Like Andy Griffith?
Andy Griffith is like 60s. But
yeah, 60s. They were showing stuff that just did not appeal to me at all.
Right.
But that kind of makes sense because Nick at Night was for the adults.
Yeah.
So we're showing shows that they kind of grew up on, sitcoms that they grew up on.
Yeah.
And then now it's like...
It's our generation's shows.
Our generation, like, we watch Nick at Night because it was shows that we grew up on. So now it all makes sense. But back in my day, Nick at Night sucked. And so you could have, like... And I'm sorry, man, because I know Andy Griffith... And MASH and all that stuff are like all-time great shows or whatever. I can't watch that shit. I can't watch it.
This is a personal thing for me, but the reason I can't stand either of those shows is because every day, and this continues to this day when I'm at my house, it's 2 hours of Andy Griffith every day on TV Land and like 3 hours of MASH immediately after, and then my dad goes to bed. Every single day.
Damn, your dad's still on the MASH wagon, huh?
I guess, yeah. He watches Sports Center all day, then 2 hours of Andy Griffith, like 2 hours of MASH, and then that's it.
Retirement must be nice.
Retirement's wild for him, man.
I noticed that he didn't have his head shaved. He's growing it out?
He's growing it. My sister's getting married next month, so he's growing it out a little bit so he doesn't look too old.
Okay.
I guess.
All right, cool. Never want to look too old at the kid's wedding.
Yeah.
All right. So... We've discussed a few of our favorite cartoons here. I mean, we left a lot out. The 90s Spider-Man cartoon is well regarded. There's Pokemon.
I would say Pokemon started in 97, but I don't know when the peak really was.
Dude,
And
it was in 97.
It's still...
97, 98 was Pokemon's peak popularity. It's still popular to this day, but, man.
Everyone was talking about
Jesus Christ, it was Pokemania when it was like 97, 98, man.
Okay.
Everyone was collecting the cards. Everyone was watching the TV show. They did the Pokemon Live, I think, in 99, and I went to see it in Cleveland. And they had like a giant like animatronic Mewtwo that like came
really?
out and stuff. And I remember that I met Allie or whatever from Kids WB.
Sure, I don't know.
She was like the chick that hosted it, and like
Okay.
in between like shows, she'd be like, "Make sure you eat fruits and vegetables and get an hour of playtime every day outside.
Yeah.
Remember to go outside and play after the shows." You know what I mean? She was your local Miss Penna.
Yeah, sure.
So, I met her, and then like I fell in love with like the girl that played Misty.
Okay.
In Pokemon Live. It was just Pokemon was nuts.
Yeah.
It was like full blown, like kind of like Japan is, because like this stuff came from Japan. So when it gets big in Japan, it's like something that's like pandemonium over here usually.
Usually, yeah.
Like, because like in Japan, okay, stuff that's
They have a lot of stuff.
from
you know?
Japan that's mildly popular here that got big in Japan gets huge in Japan, like Rurouni Kenshin, for example.
Yeah.
Mildly popular here.
Yeah.
They're doing a Rurouni Kenshin musical in October in Japan. 10 years after the series had ended, 1 year after the creator of the series was arrested for
Right.
child pornography.
Yes, which we covered on the show.
And they're still doing a
Yeah.
musical. They did 3 live action movies. They did action figures, video games, everything. It was pandemonium. Pokemon got to that level here.
Yeah.
Where it was bigger than even Dragon Ball Z ever got in
yeah.
98.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You had Pokemon Live musical that, like, you don't see that here usually. Not
Yeah.
with, like, Japanese or foreign properties.
Yeah.
We have Evil Dead the musical, but that wasn't
Yeah.
even, that's still not even, like,
What?
a huge thing.
Yeah. And, like, Ninja Turtles, like, they had all the Ninja Turtles, like, live shows, but that was all American.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
American...
and Ninja Turtles was something that reached, like, kind of like a fever pitch in popularity.
Yeah.
Like, it was big time in the early 90s when they were doing, like, or late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
They had a cartoon show. They did
The live-action movies.
The live-action movies. They did straight-to-video movies. They did the musical. Vanilla Ice had a music video
Yeah.
with them. It was the Ninja Rap.
Yeah.
Comic books, trading cards, action figures, video games, like anything that you could think of. It's like Kiss. You know what I mean? Like anything you can think of to merchandise
They
or promote
slapped it
Ninja
on there.
Turtles. Ninja Turtles is on there. I got my Ninja Turtles skateboard right up there, which is actually marketing that makes sense because all the Turtles skateboard.
Right.
But
You can find anything with Ninja Turtles on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
so but see, like I said, like you don't really see anything reach that kind of level of popularity
Today.
unless it's from here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Pokemon definitely reached that level of popularity coming from overseas. Pokemon was definitely peak popularity in the 90s. Definitely.
But I would not say it's the best show because looking
Oh.
back, it's a horrible show.
Oh, man. I don't know if it's a horrible show. I will still watch, like, the Indigo and Johto seasons of Pokemon. But,
I don't know if I can go past the first. I don't know if I can go past Indigo.
you can't do Johto?
I never watched Johto when it was on.
Really?
I only watched the Kanto stuff.
Okay, well, I did Johto.
I mean, I might have. I know I watched all the movies, but as far as watching the show, I don't know if I kept up with it after Ash lost in the Pokemon League. for the 1,000th time. Well, it was the first time.
I watched
in
a
the show.
video actually that was like talking about how Ash is like one of the main one of the biggest like anime or like main characters of any show that just constantly loses.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's literally like Sami Zayn
Yeah.
in NXT, where like he just lost all the time. All right, so I don't think that it's possible to really just like
Pick one.
sit down. Well, no, to pick one as a personal thing is definitely possible. I don't think that it's possible to sit here and say this is the greatest 90s show of all time.
Yeah.
Because there's so many that have so many strong cases and so many strong like points to them that you could counter points for other shows with.
Right.
I will tell you this, is that the greatest cartoon of all time is probably from the 90s, somewhere in there. And that we've already said, or the great, yeah, I think I said that right. And that the 90s is probably the greatest decade of cartoons that there ever was, and probably ever will be, from the way that cartoons are kind of trending these days.
Now they're more all cartoons that come out. You have the ones that are for like little kids, and then you kind of have like your, I forget what like the shows are like called, but like your Rick and Morty's and stuff like that that are more like for adults
and
yeah.
teenagers.
Yeah.
Oh man! Oh, you know what's another good cartoon? Celebrity Deathmatch. It's a cartoon. It was all claymation.
Why am I not remembering?
You don't remember Celebrity Deathmatch?
Is this a 90s thing?
Oh my god! Yeah, it was like a late 90s thing.
I do not remember this
And it was
at all.
on MTV, and it was a mature show, so maybe that's why you never watched it.
Yeah.
But so they would literally do claymation death matches with celebrities. And one of the best episodes ever came, and I have it on tape. I could put it on after we're done recording. Was Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon in Celebrity Deathmatch
As claymation.
As claymation.
I gotta see that.
And so, and I'm sure it has the rest of the card on there as well.
Yeah.
But
no, I was not aware of this.
I
at
know
all.
that I think Stone Cold takes like Undertaker's tombstone and beats Vince McMahon to death with it or something.
Jesus.
It's crazy, and it was bloody and it was suggestive. And I mean, I think they had like Marilyn Manson versus Pamela Anderson, or maybe it was Tommy Lee versus Pamela Anderson because their breakup had probably happened at that point. I'm sure O.J. Simpson is in an episode or something. I don't remember a lot of the death matches, but I remember it being a show, and I remember me always wanting to watch it because it was in a wrestling ring.
Yeah.
And I loved wrestling at the time, and I loved cartoons.
Yeah.
And I loved adult cartoons a lot because it was just so different at the time. So that was a really cool show that, I don't think that you could get something like that these days.
Not on network television, on the internet, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the concept is I guess you could get maybe one episode out of it with Drake and the Kardashians and but there's only a handful of celebrities I feel that kind of have the household appeal. Unlike back
Taylor
then,
Swift versus Katy Perry.
Yeah, I mean, but
stuff
back
like that.
then, the cult of celebrity was, I feel so much bigger back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of celebrities that you could just kind of throw in there and have their little death match.
Yeah.
I bet you they did their Axl Rose versus Vince Neil from Motley Crue.
It's possible.
Because that was a real beef in real life.
Yeah.
Anyways, Celebrity Deathmatch, I'm going to have to show it to you after the show.
For sure.
What is your favorite 90s cartoon?
Again, for me, it's tough because I was young in the 90s, so a lot of the shows I grew up with, like your Courage the Cowardly Dog and things of that nature, SpongeBob was 2000s kind of stuff. But the shows I did watch in the 90s, I would have to say that my personal favorite is a toss-up between Dexter's Lab and Hey Arnold. For me personally, I don't know which one I would pick, but for right now, those are my two that I'm deciding between. What are some of yours?
Great shows. I already know what my favorite 90s show of all time is, and a lot of
And I'm not counting Dragon Ball Z.
Okay,
But
you're not counting
for
Dragon Ball
me,
Z.
I'm not.
Okay,
But
but if you were, that would be your favorite?
I guess because I still watch it regularly.
But see, here's the thing, is that I would watch Dexter or Hey Arnold.
If it was easily available. Yeah.
Well, Dexter's on Netflix.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, now I know what I'm watching later.
Celebrity Deathmatch. My favorite 90s show of all time, and it's easy for me because I already knew this, is my favorite show of all time. It's Rurouni Kenshin.
Okay.
And I didn't even bring it up because it's not this big, iconic 90s show.
Yeah.
But that's my favorite. Now, that being said, it's not this big, iconic show, and I know that No Star Reviews probably wants me to give my favorite iconic 90s show.
Okay.
And that's tough, man.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I probably would have told you maybe Powerpuff Girls.
Mm-hmm. So that's a solid pick. It's a good show.
But these days, man, I'm probably going to have to go with Johnny Bravo.
It's a good one, too.
Johnny Bravo is just so funny. And I love, and I know it's one of the most overplayed episodes ever, but I love the Twilight Zone episode.
That's a good one.
That one's just really good with the clown on the airplane as opposed to the monster. That's awesome.
No, the one I think that's overplayed, I wouldn't even say that one's overplayed. The one that I think that they did a little too much was like the Dr. Seuss episode where the little girl's trying to get Johnny Bravo to like eat cookies or something, and like it's like based off of like Green Eggs and Ham, and I don't know, like that episode they play all the fucking time, and like it's all in rhyme.
That sucks. Bring Johnny Bravo back.
That's one that I don't know would succeed today because
Because of all the...
He's a womanizer, you know?
Bring it back, man. I don't care. All the snowflakes can go to bed about it, man. They all grew up on Johnny Bravo. I think that we can kind of forgive. And here's the thing with Johnny Bravo, too, is that he always gets his ass kicked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's never like... It's probably empowering to women, honestly, because here comes this creep womanizer guy, like, hey, mama, and he's catcalling them and everything like that, and they just beat the living shit out of him every time.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a line from that Dr. Seuss episode when I was talking about it, and I was thinking of a specific one, and I couldn't think of it. But the girl comes up to him with like these like Girl Scout cookies she's trying to sell, and she's like, "Would you eat them in a box?" And Johnny Bravo, Johnny Bravo's like, "If the fox was Courtney Cox." It's like so good.
Oh, legend! I don't care what anyone has to say, and I don't care how problematic he is. Johnny Bravo is and was a national treasure.
Yes, a global icon.
A global icon and national treasure. Okay, bring back Dexter's Lab. How about that? Bring back Dexter's Lab.
That'd be good. I think
that's not problematic.
They tried to bring it back at one point, I think, and it didn't work with like new animation. But if they brought it back,
I thought that they just did that with Powerpuff Girls.
I thought they did it with Dexter too. Like it wasn't like the series ended and then they did it again. I think like the last couple seasons they like tried something new and it just like bombed. But Powerpuff Girls they definitely brought back with a new animation style a couple years ago.
And I think they still run the one with the classic animation style.
They might, yeah.
And they rebooted it. That one with the old animation style was kind of like a TV movie, I think.
I don't know.
A short series.
I don't know.
It was garbage. And then they did they brought it back with like the old animation style for them, but the writing was just god awful and really targets kids that were not around for Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah. This is a little bit off topic because it's not. Neither of these are '90s, but like, are you aware of the Teen Titans Go thing?
I'm aware that it's garbage.
Yeah, like I've seen I guess they're making a movie of it that's coming out soon. But I guess if the kids like it, I guess that's what's important. But
I know that literally no fans of the original Teen Titans like it at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, bring back Dexter, but you know what? Do it for the
Do it for
old
us.
fans.
Do it for us.
Do it for the old fans. I don't understand the point of bringing back old properties for a new generation.
Yeah.
Because all you're going to do is piss off the fans of the old generation.
Well, I think the idea of it is the parents will watch it with the kids. But if it doesn't appeal to the parents, then it's just going to be for the kids anyway. So what's the point, you know?
Yeah. I don't see what you had to change about Powerpuff Girls, but they changed everything. But it seemed like your format there was pretty good. You got the superpower girls. They beat up supervillains, and maybe then there's like always that little subplot in the episode that kind of goes. And I wouldn't even mind if they're throwing in cell phones and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but they completely changed the way the girls talk with the OMGs and all that stuff. And it's just like, oh man, it's just not. It's not good.
It's not good. No.
Don't do that to Dexter if and when you bring him back, or Johnny Bravo. Keep Johnny Bravo the same.
Yeah.
All right. So
that's our discussion.
That was our discussion about 90s cartoons.
If you would like us to talk about 80s cartoons or 2000s cartoons or even modern day cartoons in future episodes, let us know in the comments.
I don't know much about 80s cartoons.
Well, I mean, we can talk, we know about Ninja Turtles. We know about Transformers.
I know about them, but they were never shows that I like.
Yeah.
I wasn't around for them, so like. Yeah, I watched Ninja Turtles and Transformers when they were on when I was a really, really young kid, but I don't remember anything about it. And it was never something that was like during those peak like nostalgia years for me that like I consider growing up with when I was a kid. As
a side note, I watched Incredibles 2 the other day in theaters.
And was it incredible too?
It was fine. It was fine. It was not worth the 14-year wait. And they even recorded, like, a video at the beginning of, like, Samuel L. Jackson and, like, the other actors. Like, yeah, movies take a long time. We hope you appreciate the wait. 14 years of, like, hard work, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for waiting. And then the movie is just fine. Like, it wasn't, like, groundbreaking. But as I was saying, in the movie, they were watching on TV Johnny Quest, which I thought was very bizarre.
Was it the original Johnny Quest?
I believe so. Like, they were just watching it on TV, like, flipping the channels. Like, Johnny Quest came on, and he was there, and then the one in the turban was there. I don't know his name.
Haji.
Yeah. And I was just like, whoa! I was like, I didn't expect to see Johnny Quest. And I told Emily, I was like, that was a show when I was a kid.
Well, here's the thing. Johnny Quest was not a show when you were a kid.
Well, it was on TV.
Show that circulated when you were...
It was on TV.
They brought it back. And they did the Johnny Quest reboot when we were kids. They did, like, the 3D Johnny Quest.
See, I never watched that. I watched the reruns of the old one.
I watched the reruns of the old one, but I also watched the reboot, and that was terrible, and it never caught up.
Was it?
Yeah. But, speaking of reboot, here's a 90s show that I just don't think it's fair if we go off without mentioning it, at least, was Reboot.
What is Reboot?
You don't remember Reboot?
No.
It was a 100% CGI like cartoon that was on Toonami back in the day, and it would probably be on before or after Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon, and they were all like they lived inside of like a computer system, and so like your main character, like your main villain his name was Megabyte. And he was a virus, I believe.
I am not remembering this at all.
Hexadecimal was the other main villain. She was a girl that was also a virus.
I'm going to look up some artwork from this to see if I remember it.
Man, it was a really cool show. And then there was Bob, was the main character for the first couple of seasons.
Okay, I recognize these characters, but I don't remember the show at all.
Okay,
but
there's Bob.
I've seen this before.
And then there's, all right. Reboot the Reboot coming soon. Hey, that's kind of cool. So this was a popular show when I was a kid, and probably because just like that style was very new.
CG was new.
That was very new at the time. There's Megabyte. I can't remember the kid's name, but okay, so this show got really good in the later seasons when Bob left, and this little kid got older, and the show, because like the first episodes were very like by the episode. Like each episode was kind of self-contained, and there would be like kind of a plot that would continue on, but it wasn't like one everlasting arc. You didn't need to see everything.
There's some street sharks, brother.
Yeah. So we're going through pictures right now. So we have this kid, and I can't remember his name right off the bat. But there he is, and in the later seasons, that's him. So he gets older, and he looks like that. And in the later seasons, he kind of like goes on this actual, like, they had like a
quest.
overarching quest, like,
Yeah.
storyline where Bob was gone. I think he was trying to find Bob, or he, like, resented Bob for leaving, or something like that. And, like, it was a really cool show. And speaking of CGI shows, another one that is really well received even to this day is Beast Wars, which is considered by many Transformers fans to be probably the best Transformers series they ever did. And I loved that show when I was a kid.
See, I didn't know it was, because you said it was still, like, popular today. I did not know that it was still popular today, or coming back, or whatever.
It's not coming back.
Well, I mean, like, coming back in popularity, not coming back to TV.
I don't know if it's coming back in popularity even, but I'm saying it's highly regarded among the Transformers fan base.
Okay.
And as far as I know, is held up there as, like, the best Transformers TV series that there ever was.
I see.
And by that token, better than any of the Transformers movies, aside from the original 80s cartoon movie. By the way, Bumblebee is not a sequel. It is a reboot of the entire Transformers franchise.
Is it really?
Yeah, my boss, who's a huge Transformers nerd, who hasn't seen Beast Wars, ironically, explained it to me that it's a reboot.
I did not know that,
Yeah.
but okay.
That explains why the military has no idea who
what's
Bumblebee
going on.
is
Okay.
in the later movies.
Okay.
And that also explains John Cena.
Yes.
I don't know why, but it does. All right.
Well, are we making picks for a poll, or was this just a discussion? Or we can just throw out the question on Twitter, have people respond to us.
We can do the poll. We
Okay.
can do the poll. So we'll go ahead and put Johnny Bravo, which I believe will lose against either Dexter's Lab or...
Well,
you know what? I'll do my... You pick 2 picks, and I'll do my 2 picks. Will be I picked Dexter's Lab, too, as my second one. I'll throw Powerpuff Girls in there.
Okay, yeah, and we'll just...
All right, so Johnny Bravo and Powerpuff Girls, and you've got Dexter's Lab and Hey Arnold. Cool.
Sounds good to me.
Awesome.
If
I
you
have
guys...
Hey Arnold, the movie, on VHS.
It's a good movie.
Yeah,
I went to see that in theaters. Yeah, but if you guys want to hear us talk about more cartoons or some live action shows from back in the good old days, let us know. We watched a lot of sitcoms in our day, I'm sure.
I watched more sitcoms as I got older.
Yeah.
So, like, when I was a kid, I didn't really like the sitcoms. And they were, God knows they were always on, but I never liked them. And now, like, once I started getting into probably my later teens, I'm trying to think of a sitcom that I liked Family Guy in my teens.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a sitcom.
Yeah, I mean, Simpsons is a sitcom. The Flintstones was a sitcom, but it was a cartoon.
Okay,
you know?
well, I liked the Flintstones when I was little.
Yeah.
Just not the movie.
Right. I don't think anyone likes the movie.
Speaking of old cartoons, how about that episode where Johnny Bravo crossed over with Scooby-Doo?
That's a good episode. That's like an iconic episode, man.
That's great. And he's trying to get with Daphne the whole time, but Velma actually has a crush on him?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Make sure you donate to our GoFundMe to see Bad Moms Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
It's not in theaters anymore, but we will rent it.
We will rent it. Actually, I think Family Video might be going out of business in Buell. Did you see the for sale sign in the front?
Oh, God. Where am I going to play Dragon Ball FighterZ now?
I don't
have
know.
to actually buy it. Ugh.
Yeah, times are tough. You can't rent those. The Redbox doesn't have games.
They do, but they never carried Dragon Ball FighterZ,
really?
which is ridiculous because it's like in the top 2 of like competitive fighting games right now. It's like Street Fighter 5, whatever edition they're on right now, and then Dragon Ball FighterZ.
I feel as if like Amazon could get like, because they do like movie rentals. I feel like they could do like a game rental where they give you a code that's like good for a week or something like that.
Yeah.
But we'll see what the future holds. I don't know. But all right. Well, that's it for this week. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. Hit up Jared on Twitch. Hit up my channel, I guess, whenever I do a video, which hasn't been since February. But this is Buddy the Bruiser signing off, and we will see you soon.
This is Dynamite Jared signing off. We are 2 nerds, and this has been a podcast. See you guys next week.